Hello all, welcome back to Building Materials 2. This is week 2 and we're going to talk about material properties. A little reminder, I hope that you have all paid a visit to the presentation, video and other reading materials I have put on the Moodle site. These are very important for your assignment and workbook activities. And I want to remind you the importance of the workbook activity because you will have to pass the workbook activity in order to get a pass for the course. And please manage your time properly so that you won't have to rush into things when we are approaching the due dates for the assessment. This week we're going to talk about material properties. We're first going to have a look at the incompatibility of materials. And then in order to solve the problems, we need to know the properties of materials and how to select the proper materials. Building materials must be durable enough to perform their intended function over the required lifetime. An understanding of the factors affecting material selection, the methods, the ways we're going to use to determine building materials durability, and the maintenance requirements of the building materials is required, and that's what we're going to talk about in this week's lecture. We're going to look at a few common incompatibility problems of materials. Metallic corrosion. Metallic corrosion is an undesirable deterioration of construction materials by electrochemical action resulting in loss of functional or aesthetic value. There are two types of metallic corrosion. The first is galvanic reactions. You can use the figure here to understand galvanic reactions. It simply means that if any of these two metals are in damp contact, the metal higher on the table will sacrifice itself to protect the metal lower on the scale. For example, if zinc and stainless steel are in damp contact, and zinc will sacrifice itself to protect stainless steel because zinc is more active than stainless steel. The other type is water metal corrosion. This is particularly apparent in warm, humid atmospheres. It's very common in our life. You can easily identify the corrosion in your bathroom or somewhere else where the steel is in contact with water. A recommended way to prevent water metal corrosion is to provide surface coating. This surface coating will serve as an insulation between water and metal. There are some other issues relating to incompatibility of materials, such as stains, which include copper stains. Copper stains are the greenish stains that are caused by water dripping off copper, and rust stains, of course, which is very common in our life. And some timber stains may be dark brown stain in wet conditions. The stains are not only damageable to the aesthetic value of the materials, sometimes they lead to instability of the materials, and these should be monitored. Chemical reactions between materials can also lead to incompatibility of materials. For example, milk is very destructive on cement-based materials because it contains acid. The enclosed swimming pool generates warm, moist atmosphere and will attack steel. Chloride will cause corrosion to metal. There are other incompatibility of materials, such as differential movement of materials, defective design, detailing, and cleaning problems. You may want to read the textbook for more information on these. When we find the incompatibility of materials, and sometimes we need to run a few tests to find out the solutions to the problem. And that's why we need to know a few basic properties of materials. For example, there are physical properties such as density, bulk density, and density index, and there are also porosity. Porosity is a simple measure of how many pores that the materials have per volume of materials. Dense materials are used for constructions requires a very high mechanical strength, and dense materials will generally have low porosity. And there are hygroscopicity. Hygroscopicity is a property of a material to absorb water vapor from air. And there are water absorption. It is the ability of material to absorb and return water. Weathering resistance. It is the ability to endure alternative wet and dry conditions for a long period without considerable deformation and loss of mechanical strength. And there are water permeability. It is the capacity to allow water to penetrate under pressure. And there are frost resistance. It is the ability of a water-saturated material to endure repeated freezing without considerable decrease of mechanical strength. And there are heat conductivity, thermal capacity, and fire resistance. And you can find the definition of these in the textbook. Of course, there are some mechanical properties such as strength, hardness, elasticity. It is the ability of the material to restore its initial form and dimensions after the load is removed. While the most common materials with high elasticity is rubber, and there are plasticity. It is the ability of the material to change its shape under load without cracking, and to retain this shape after the load is removed. And for example, steel. In the chapter Comparative Tabulations in the textbook, you can find the comparisons of different properties of different building materials. For example, if you would like to know the sound reduction of different materials, for example, my house is located near the highway and I need a very good sound reduction material, and you may refer to table 11 in the textbook in the chapter. And basically, concrete walls will have better sound reduction than glass windows, and thicker brick walls will have better sound reduction. Knowing the incompatibility of building materials and its properties, there are some other things you should also know, and such as factors affecting material selection. Location site conditions such as rainfall, the humidity, temperature, the exposure to sunlight, the local wind patterns, or pollution of air and water, this will all affect your material selection. For example, a building which is located near to the sea, it may be subject to large amount of sea salt, and as we have known, the sea salt will have great influence on metallic building components. And also there are construction methods. Some are steel structure and some other buildings are concrete structure, and it depends on the structure, and that you will choose your building materials. And also there are building materials interaction, such as galvanic corrosion we discussed earlier. And of course, the material specification and substitution. The substitution of one material with another in a building, it can have serious effects. Products which looks very similar and are designed for similar purposes may not have identical performance and durability in all situations. That's why we need to be very careful. We need to pay attention to material specification and substitution. We're going to refer to the checklist to see what we have learned from this course, from this topic. First, it's interpreted technical information on the chemical and physical properties of building materials, and we talk about that. And develop a basic understanding of the hazards to human health, and we talk about a few instability of or incompatibility of building materials that may be damageable to human health, and that we need to understand the incompatibility of building materials. The workbook activity of this week is that we need to identify building materials that are badly affected by salt air, and we need to define such raw materials, and is it affected by the incompatibility with another material, or is it just the salty air, and are there any remedies that you can offer? This is the end of topic 2, and if you have any questions, simply post it to the general forum, and I will get back to you within 24 hours maximum.